Michael Yates on the left there of your screen, and we'll see Rob on the right-hand side of your screen, and they are from EOS DAC.
Welcome, guys.
Hiya.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Doing well. And I see that Michael Yates is. I can see his shirt on, the EOS DAC shirt.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
Yeah, I've got my shirt as well here.
There it is.
Branded up.
We figured that you must have got a team spirit thing going on here. That looks good. Yeah, good to have you guys on. Thank you for joining us. Where are you guys based out of?
Okay, well, we're both in the UK.
Okay. Yeah, I know with EOS DAC, of course, it'll be worldwide, decentralized. But thank you for joining us. I'm sure it's late over there. It's probably, 10 p.m. or so, possibly 11 in that range. So thank you for coming on.
It's 11 o'clock at night, which is quite good because all the kids are in bed.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no one's stealing up all the Wi-Fi, taking up. So let's jump right into it, guys. Let's talk about EOS DAC. We usually go by a format of who, what, where, why, when. So we might as well start with the who. I mean, we know a little bit about you guys. Can you give us a little more background about not only yourselves, but also about EOS DAC and the other team members as well?
Yeah, of course. I think just a little bit of background on how it all got started. I started off looking at EOS very much inspired through when Brendan and Dan were coming up with that initial onslaught around EOS bringing in the era of DACs. And that really sort of hit a note with me. And I started looking at how I could set up a DAC, how I could do sort of work with EOS to start creating something. And then the whole thing about block producers came up, and I thought, well, this is a perfect thing to start up a DAC around. I'd met Michael earlier, and we've been chatting about a few things. So I ran the idea by him, and he helped me a little bit to start off with, but then I started putting out some posts around it, and the response was great. We started getting a bunch of people who said, well, let's go and do this, and let's turn this into something. So really, we've got quite a large team that then built up around all that. And so a lot of them are based in the UK. It just so happened. It's actually quite random how it happened, but so we've got a number of people who've been working with ISPs before, who've set up businesses in the IT space before. And we've got a lawyer on board as well, who's worked in the crypto space before, which we're very fortunate to have. And we've got quite a nice extensive media team who have been going around really communicating and engaging with the community really full on over the last few weeks.
Oh, that's
nice.
Very nice. And yourself, Michael, do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so I've been a web developer since, the last 20 years, since 1998 roughly. Been involved in web and then later on e-commerce on the web for like the last 15 years or so. Only got into blockchain really last year. I knew about Bitcoin back in the day, but it never really excited me very much. I'm much more interested in the business application and the technology application rather than the financial side of it. So yeah, again, I met Robert on the EOS Talk channels back in September or October. He managed to locate me somehow and found out that we actually live in the same city. So we met up for a drink.
Was that an official EOS meetup?
No, well, no. it was me and him.
Not at all. It was hey, I like what you're talking about on the EOS Telegram channels, and I'd love to have a drink with you and pick your brain on stuff.
Cool. Sounds like most interactions here on EOS. Just start with Telegram. Oh, hey, you're pretty cool. Let's go ahead and talk some more.
Yeah. So he starts. I mean, obviously, I was really interested in the DACs and the whole DAC thing and the business side of that, and I'm definitely planning to set up one or two of my own. And he said, "How about a DAC block producer?" And I said, "Well, that's a great idea." And then we talked a little bit, and then he kind of disappeared for a bit, and I didn't realize, but he was very serious, and he went off and he built this whole team, and he did all the work behind it.
Other people contacted me, and they helped build up the team, to be honest. But
yeah, so I mean, the team we've got in eosDAC is amazing. It's a Premier League team. We've got good financial guys, we've got good business guys, we've got good social guys, and everyone just seems to be working well together and towards the same goal. So it's worked out really well so far.
Got any footballers?
I think
you said it's the Premier League, so I don't know.
Yeah, we don't do. No, I don't think we have any football fans at all. We're more rugby fans, I would say.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'm more of a cricket guy myself, but
there you go.
I can watch a bit of football.
How far along have you guys gotten here with forming the DAC and the legal stuff around it? And I know you've set up something in the West Indies. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've got two companies actually in the West Indies. We've got Blockmaker Limited, which effectively it's set up the tokens and it's basically appointed the launch team. That it's given away a number of tokens, so it's given everything away. It hasn't been paid for anything, and it's basically set up as a company to protect that liability about issuing off tokens. And we've run it through with Ravi, who's dealing with the Anguillan government as well on their ICO legislation about the way that we're doing it. And these effectively act as invites and tokens into the DAC, which will launch on the chain. So basically, we're the launch team. The DAC is not there yet. We're going to be launching it on the EOS chain. We're building up a distribution beforehand because we see that that's considerably more powerful. That any DAC needs to have people vested in it to start kicking it off, and that's what we're trying to do, is to build up that whole interest beforehand. So then we've also got eosDAC Limited, which is also an Anguillan company, because that's really where we've got our legal and regulatory interface. And that's going to be acting as a bit of a go-between between the crypto and the real world. It's going to be the place where initially, this is all subject to change, like everything else in EOS, but this is initially going to be the place where we get the contracts for the infrastructure, where we have this interface in with crypto exchanges to get fiat. So this is where an awful lot of the liability lies. It's with this company in Anguilla. But that doesn't mean that the DAC may not have other service organizations which fulfill that role in the future, as long as we also have that sort of legal and jurisdictional due diligence that we're running wherever we set anything up.
And of course, we should jump into the important question that everybody's watching for. What do we need to know about the airdrop? What should people do to be prepared for it? It's April 15th, I believe. Is there a cutoff time in particular? Yep. What do people need to do?
Do you want to take it, Michael, or should I?
I'll take it. Go on then. So April 15th, 1 a.m. UTC, I believe, is the snapshot time, which aligns with the 300th period of the EOS distribution. So as long as you have your EOS tokens in a wallet with a key that you own, i.e. not an exchange account, then you should receive the airdrop, no problem. If you have your tokens on the exchange, you should probably send them off to a wallet just to make sure. Some exchanges may or may not support the airdrop, but we cannot guarantee anything there. You do not need to have it registered, and unclaimed tokens will be counted as well.
Yeah, so just to add to that, currently only Opbit have said that they'll take a snapshot and consider distributing the airdrop. So we've been having a little competition. We've been encouraging people on our Telegram group to go and prod the exchanges a little bit to say that they're going to support this airdrop. If they don't support it, then definitely take your EOS off the exchange and that's the way that you're going to guarantee that you get your EOS. If you've got less than 100 EOS, you're still going to be included in the snapshot. But because there's literally so many accounts out there, and we have got limited funds for the airdrop, it's not going to be worthwhile us, say, dropping to people who have 1 EOS, for instance, and there's like 1,000 of them out there. But anyone with 1 EOS or more can come and collect, and we'll have a method where people can collect their eosDAC after the actual airdrop itself.
And can you walk us, so that there will be 1,200,000,000 tokens, I believe, right? There will be,
that's right.
There will be 75% will be airdropped, 25% will be reserved for the launch team. Can you walk us through the token mechanics, how all this will work, and what the token will do for the token holders?
Okay, initially, the token acts as an invite to join the DAC on the EOS blockchain. That's what it does. Now, then it will be moved across one-to-one when it gets there. And then the advantage of holding it is that you're going to be able to participate in this organization, which is hoping to get voted in as a block producer. And you will be able to either propose things that it can do. You can vote for the governance team of it. You can even stand to be on the governance team of it by holding tokens. And in due course, if there is revenue that comes out of it, then you have a chance of assigning where that may go. That's basically, you're a shareholder of it. You own part of it. So if we make profits, who knows, maybe we won't. But if we make profits, then that's shared amongst people, regardless of whether they vote or not. That's not the point of it. But hopefully, we're planning to be far more, or doing a lot more activities than just block production. So hopefully there may be other revenue angles in the future, and maybe that will also be beneficial for people.
Rob, do you mind? I think there's maybe a little problem with your camera. Can you just wipe it off?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like you have a little moisture on the camera lens or something like that. Or the camera needs reading glasses. We can't tell which one it is.
That's better.
It's a little better. Yeah.
A little better. Yeah. And so the token, now when you talk about profit, there's been a lot of question about the profits of the token distribution back to the token holders of the eosDAC token. Who decides on that? Would it be the actual DAC community members? Would they vote on that?
They would vote in custodians who would consider proposals around it.
Okay.
Obviously you would expect any sensible functioning organization to make sure that it's fulfilling what it needs to do first. So we need to make sure we take care of the infrastructure. We got to take care of the other obligations. We've got to make sure that things run well. And that, obviously, there's probably reserves that need to be built up as well, because you don't want to be running on a shoestring budget forever. But in due course, we would expect that if there is revenue, some people may choose that they want to receive it rather than it being kept for purposes of the DAC.
How many token holders do you expect to, and wouldn't it also make sense to have a delegate voter as well for them?
We probably would have all those things, I think, or delegates anyway. And even within the custodian team, we would probably have delegation within that if the DAC becomes so big that we can't all group in one room and we can't make decisions. As we're going to probably have 12 custodians to begin with. Seems like a good figure. But as we get bigger, we may well have a Korean team, and we may well have a Chinese team within the custodians, and they may well split off and make decisions amongst themselves for their particular area. In terms of how many token holders we have, we don't know. It depends how many people claim and how many people. There will be some terms and conditions you have to agree to. I think you guys know what kind of terms and conditions those are. So It depends how many people take up our offer of an invite. We're sending out the invites, and we'll see how many people come to the party.
Yeah,
we're hoping a lot.
We're going to be dropping to about 100. It'll probably be about 110,000 accounts that we'll drop to, and we'll see how many actually come across and start being full members of the DAC.
And just to clarify, that only accounts that will receive the eosDAC tokens are EOS accounts with more than 100 EOS. Is that correct?
Automatically, yeah.
Automatically.
You can receive it if you have under 100 EOS tokens, but you have to do a little bit of manual work afterwards.
Okay.
You have to collect them from us rather than us delivering them to you.
And folks should go on to the... Oh, go ahead, Bluejays.
I was going to say, so the part where everyone is interested in is the profit sharing now, and how that is perceived. So the concept is that whatever block rewards that eosDAC receives would be shared among the token holders. Some perceive this to be vote buying. Some perceive it to be harmless. So what is your guys' opinion on that?
Obviously, our opinion is that it isn't vote buying, because you don't have to vote for us to receive any money. And if you look at everything back to basic principles about how we started this and our ideas behind it, about our DAC, distributing the ownership of a company or an organization widely across this huge distribution list, then it makes sense that they would have decisions over everything which happens in the DAC. And one of those things which happens in the DAC is what to do with our excess profits. Personally, I think that we've got a lot of other goals, and we're going to have plenty of things to spend our money on. And if it comes down to it, we've got a lot of goals that we would rather spend the money on before giving back profits to token holders. But again, we cannot control it. Once we put this out, we're literally distributing this company, and we're saying that we're no longer in control. So we cannot dictate what happens. We can't say, oh, it's great, we're going to make everything uncontrolled and distributed. Oh, but we need to control this one particular thing. So yeah, I mean, it will be fun, definitely, to see what happens when we finally open up the voting.
In fact, you can't even say what kind of strategy you would have for community engagement or any other thing, because you don't really know until voters vote, right?
No. Yeah, we may well be voted out and they change the purpose of the company to make ice cream or anything. Yeah. They may pivot from being a block producer, certainly. So I think probably after the EOS mainnet launch, we are going to host elections for the custodian team. We probably couldn't do that very early because we simply don't have the tools to be able to pass on a distributed company to a completely different set of people.
That'd be a weighted vote by tokens?
Yeah, so they would vote for the custodians, and then the custodians we have able to make decisions quite quickly, so the custodians vote on worker proposals. We made that as a compromise now so that we could get things passed more quickly, and we could actually run a company a little bit more quickly than having a decision every 30 days or so.
I guess it really makes sense. It makes more sense to me now in terms of when you have a block producer of a typical style, right? They're the ones who decide where the extra profits should go, right? Maybe to themselves, maybe to wherever. Yeah. And in this case, because it is a fully decentralized, autonomous community or collective, they are the ones who decide where those profits should go. So I guess it makes more sense. And also, you mentioned the tools. You guys really, your passion is about creating the tools to make more DACs on EOS. Is that right? Yeah. So you take some of the funds and make a toolkit of some sort?
Yeah.
We're going to have to build the tools anyway. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to make them so that we can share them and so other people can use them as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I already need them for my own projects as well. Yeah. So it's not altruism. It's quite self-interested that I need these tools, and we all need these tools for building a DAC, because I think DACs are going to be the way that companies are run on EOS particularly. If you look at anything which is classified as a DApp at the moment, they're eventually going to face the problems of how do you update your code, how do you run your business, how do you decide what to do. And I think on a blockchain, the way to do that is to wrap it with a DAC. And I think we're going to see that happen with every single DApp. It's going to eventually come to us and say, oh, this looks quite interesting. How do I modify my company to do this?
Other than decision making for a DAC, what's some of the critical areas that you see that would need the help of a tool?
I think everything within a business, or it's not a business, it could be a community, it could be any group of people with a common goal. It's how do you do things? You have to be able to do things. And those things are either get somebody to do some work for you, pay a service, maybe pay out people. It all involves fairly basic stuff. So it's going to involve a financial transaction on the blockchain somewhere, or a vote on the blockchain somewhere. Robert and I sat down last week and we put together a list of all the different components that we're going to need. And it comes to, there's about 12 different components. So it's quite complicated, but there is a lot of voting in there, and the worker proposals form a key part of the DAC. But then we have complications, for example, especially with a block producer, we have a bank account. So who control, well, it's not a bank account, it's a normal account with EOS tokens in it, or any number of tokens in it. If we're a distributed company and all of our custodians change, how do we then pass on control of that account to the new people that come in? So there's financial controls like that, which are quite complicated. We need multi-sig wallets on that to make sure that all the custodians agree to any payments that come out of the account. And that's why we find it difficult to open up elections immediately, because if we did and we were voted out, then I don't think the business would work anymore. I think it would cease to function.
And I think with the toolkit, we're not just looking about just these work proposals and the and about the money side. There's also, we're wanting to see if we can help around the regulatory and jurisdictional issues which everyone's going to face as well. So we want to be able to look at what works, experiment on what's going to work as well. So that hopefully is going to help people and help other DACs to look at how they set up.
Yeah, so Ravi's done an awful lot of work, legal work for us, which we're very grateful for, because you need the legal side of it. You need to make sure that you're covered and protected, and you don't just run off and do what you think is right, because often it isn't right and it will get you in a lot of trouble.
Ravi is part of your team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got, what, 20 years experience in legal, and he was doing legal on the blockchain before Bitcoin. I think it's the DigiGold he was involved with. So yeah, he really knows his stuff when it comes to legal, and he really understands blockchain as well. And he's doing his own crazy stuff with legal, where he's forming new types of companies, which so that DACs could be legally represented. At the moment, we have a normal company living within the DAC, or it's a member of the DAC, and then it just does whatever the rest of the members tell it to do. But in the future, we will hopefully have legal representation or a legal status for DACs themselves.
I just realized that we could ask you about 100 more questions here all night long, because I'm thinking about, what if one of the team members who are elected, if they decide to run off with some of the money that's actually in the bank, right, the money that's supposed to pay for the electricity bill, and they run off with it. I mean, all sorts of things that will be hard to control and deal with.
That they wouldn't be able to if there was a multi-signature wallet, which required a majority of the custodians to sign off. Yeah, I mean, things can get tricky when you start having fewer and fewer custodians, because it's perfectly possible to run a DAC with one person or two people. You don't need to distribute to everyone on the EOS list. We did, because this is, it's the dream to distribute as widely as possible. But some people say that's the crazy thing to do. It's much better just to start with a couple of people and see if it works. but we're obviously doing the extreme. But
and I mean, there's a reason for that. It's because the power of any DAC is really lies in its distribution. So by spreading it as widely as possible, this is what EOS is doing. They are trying to make the distribution as wide as possible, and that's what gives EOS its power. We likewise, we're taking a leaf out of their book.
Yeah, so it means that nobody's really in total control of your company. Even we aren't. We've had discussions internally about this. You know, could we actually control it? Could we prevent it being taken away? And we would have a good chance, but at the end of the day, we would be outweighed if it came down to a vote and we lost. So to us, that's the most exciting. Well, to me, that's the most exciting thing, that one day this company may just run away from us, and hopefully it will do better than if we were involved.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. I mean, in theory, it should do better because the token holders are going to elect somebody that they feel is better qualified to run it.
Last question I have. The 25% that is held back, is that going to be a voting amount as well?
Rob?
Yes, that is basically shared amongst the launch team, and that the launch team can choose to vote with it. So that will actually provide some degree of protection initially on it. Perhaps for this training wheel stage that we're going to need to have, we're going to need to make sure that we do have some weight on it so that we don't get taken over straight away, and that we're able to start off with a particular vision. But over time, it's going to change.
Yeah, the key is defining our vision so that later on down the road, everybody knows where we're trying to head to. Because a DAC is just a group of people with a common goal, and if we don't set that common goal early, then everyone's going to start fighting and arguing about where we're actually heading.
Sure. Yeah, and before you guys go, I have one last question as well that we like to ask most folks who come on, but especially interested with you two because you're two of the most vociferous community members around. But basically, where do you see EOS going? I mean, we look a couple years in the future. Do you guys see a lot of DAC BPs? Where do you generally see EOS going?
Personally, I see it exploding. I see that a lot of people are going to get it, and it will start to get used for all sorts of decentralized business opportunities. And people will suddenly realize that, hang on, there's this thing that suddenly is the blockchain, and you can use it for real business purposes. And corporates will start to think, hey, this is actually a good thing, and why are we spending all this money with IBM on the likes when we could simply be using this open source tool?
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to see all block producers as DACs. I think we're going to see all companies as DACs. I think everything that happens on EOS will be run as a DAC rather than as a standard company. Some of the standard companies may well start as a halfway house by wrapping themselves into use the tools that we're providing. But I think over time, those companies are not going to compete with a DAC, especially one distributed to the entire EOS shareholding. So, you know, if you own the chain, you own everything that's running on the chain as well, and a new company comes in that you don't own the share of, it's not really going to sit very well. And they're going to have to work extremely hard to keep up with the DAC. We're going to be more efficient, and we're going to be better for our
transparency is another major thing.
Yeah,
it's more transparent, more inclusive, more trustworthy.
Are you speaking of transparency? Are you going to be planning to put out your operating budget or estimated operating budget, things like that when things get rolling?
As soon as we get the estimated requirements of the chain, we'll give you the estimated operating budget.
Okay.
I think the chain launch is going to be a little bit of wait and see, and a little bit of suck it and see what happens once we launch, because nobody has any clue. We may well launch and there's very little business on there, or we may well launch and it flies through the roof. And the key for a block producer is to be able to handle either of those situations without breaking a sweat. And I think that's what we're working most towards. You know, if transactions are 500 a second requirement, then we can do this. If it's much higher, then we can do that. We're talking to data centers all over the world. We've got at least 5 or 6 different locations that we're talking to now on every level of the scalability.
And last thing is, where should people go? We have eosDAC.io. Where should people follow you guys, keep up with the airdrop, and learn more about eosDAC as it starts to form more? What are the next steps?
Okay, so the main place that we'll post stuff will, if it's new stuff, the main place would be on the Busy or Steemit posts. Also on Telegram, we've got our eosDAC.io channel, which we engage with people on pretty regularly, and anyone can come there and ask us questions. And obviously the website has got a newsletter link, so you can sign up for that and we'll send you a newsletter.
Yeah, so if you're interested in joining the DAC at all, or you just want to find out more, come along. We've got people signing up all the time and coming to us saying what a great idea they think it is and how can they help. And yeah, we're definitely looking for more people to join the team. So if you want to take some more of those tokens that are reserved for the launch team, you want to be part of the launch team, you want to be voted out when the DAC launches, then come join us and tell us what you can do and come and help. And yeah, we'd love to see people come and join the team.
We're very inclusive, and we have had news people joining the launch team over the last week as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming on. I know we've had a lot of interest about hearing from you guys, so we thank you very much for coming on and answering our questions. So we're looking forward to seeing you.
It's been a pleasure. It's really great to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks a
Very good
lot.
to see you guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike and Rob.
Yeah.
Okay.